Hello, friends. If you listened to last week's show, you know I left you with a cliff-hanging question. If you didn't hear the interview, I urge you go back and take a listen. Dr. Don Barden is joining us today. He is a globally recognized behavioral economist, sought-after consultant, and acclaimed author known for transforming companies through his innovative approach, The Perfect Plan. Not only was he named one of North America's top 30 most transformational leaders by John Maxwell, he's influenced industry experts and giants such as Microsoft, Coca-Cola, and Walmart, guiding them to remarkable growth and success. Today, you're going to hear part 2 of this interview as we have a conversation around his latest visionary book, Here Come the Girls, a celebration of why women will take over global leadership in 2028. The data is compelling and the forecast is bright. Let's jump back into the show.
And like I said, we're at 42% right now. Six of the big 8 firms on Wall Street now are run by women. The 2 that are not have a woman in the queue to come up and do it. And then look at Mexico. Mexico just elected its first female president, and she's Jewish. The most Catholic country in the world just elected a female Jew to be their president. And it's arguing. I mean, we'll see if she's any good or not, but she wouldn't have gotten there if she wasn't. So we see this happening all around us, but we're also busy. We don't step back and just look around. And we were fortunate enough to do it and to just, with the power of observation, say, oh. But then we took the scientific approach, did the doctoral study. I spent 4 years studying this, and it's just undeniable to the point, like I said, you can't unsee it.
Well, Don, I know our listeners are waiting on the edge of their seats. I've got 2 things. All right. So as someone with a messaging and marketing brain, I'm going back to this where you teed it up. What do the consumers want? What do the workers want? What do these female leaders want? What did you see was the consistent thing that ran through what they wanted?
Yeah.
And then part 2 is, what are these women doing differently?
Yeah. What the consumer and the workforce want is to feel like they're part of the deal, to feel like they're valued, that they are part of the decision-making process, not like I'm being forced to buy something. Because we do live in a world of choice right now, which goes back to why the workforce changes every 3 years. They have a choice. You know, back when my dad worked for the railroads for 40 years after World War II, 40 years. It never crossed his mind to go work somewhere else. But those days are gone. And I don't know if he had a choice, to be honest with you. He was a laborer. He did it. He worked hard. He was the greatest generation. Can't take any of that away from the man. But at the end of the day, he didn't have a whole lot of choices. Now we've all got choices. So if you're going to make choices, you're going to go to where you feel valued and you feel like you're part of it, that it means something, that you're seen, heard, and understood. That's what the consumer is looking for, and that's what the workforce is looking for. That sums it all up. Now there's marketing, there's branding, there's hype, there's stuff that gets up and go. Because we always look at Red Bull and Monster, Coke and Pepsi, and like, why? They need each other. By the way, Red Bull needs Monster, Coke needs Pepsi. I mean, there's all types of studies around that. But ultimately, what is it that creates that engagement? It's the ability to feel valued and empowered, and understand that they're part of it. Like, you see me, you hear me, you understand me as a consumer. Therefore, I will reward you by commerce. I will reward you by buying your products and do stuff. And you flip that around and you go to most businesses. And I have this weird ability. When we sit down with C-suite people, I usually get the mission statement, the value statement. They tell me all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, that was great. Good training. Now tell me the truth.
Right.
What are you really trying to accomplish? And the truth is, for most businesses, they're seeking 4 freedoms. They want the freedom of time, money, relationship, and purpose. That's what the C-suite wants. But what they really want to get there is to sell more things to more people faster. That's it. Right? Now, to do that, you've got to have the right product. You got to have the right leadership. You got to have the right brand and marketing. You got to have the right distribution sources. And you have to have the ability to connect with it. And so looking back at that, that's basic business. It doesn't even have to be economics. That's just business 101 or marketing 101. It's real simple. But then you look at it and go, but why is she doing it 3 times better than the guys are doing it?
Right.
And that's the secret sauce. That's what we figured out, is how she deals with that. And so she is basically giving the consumer what they want. The traditional patriarchal male system, which I'm not knocking, which is going away. Some of the laggards haven't figured that out yet. Now, some have. Look at Apple. Tim Cook's done an amazing job with
Mhm.
Apple, and what they're doing, but they're a little bit of an anomaly, right? In fact, here's an interesting stat in economics. If these big companies, UPS, Apple, Coca-Cola, Microsoft, Walmart, it's closing stores, by the way, which is interesting, no effect on the economy. Walmart can lay off 25,000 people. No, the economy doesn't notice. That's
Right.
how big the economy is. Most of the world is driven by small and mid-sized businesses. If 25,000 small businesses go under, well, we got a problem.
Mhm.
We got a serious problem. But one big giant company laying off 25,000 people, grossly uncomfortable, and I would not want to be one of those people. But the economy just keeps on moving because it's there. So it's really about those small, engaged, and mid-sized businesses that she's running. She's running the big ones too, but that's the pulse of it. That's where everything happens is there. So she, as a leader, has a great understanding of the responsibility of marketing 101, business 101, economics 101, accounting 101. But she has this unbelievable galactic ability to grow it 3 times over everybody else. And that was the ultimate. I guess that's your second part of the question, but that's the ultimate piece to it. She is in absolute alignment with the workforce and the consumer.
All right. So she's in alignment. What is she doing, since we're talking about observation? What is she doing
Yeah.
that the male counterpart is having difficulty doing?
Sure. Well, let's talk about the males first. Like I
Okay.
said, men fix things. We just
Mhm.
do. And I wasn't joking. Sometimes we break it just so we can fix it. That's just something guys do. It's the way they're trained from being little boys. Part of the old system. Nothing wrong with it. And guys are really good at it. Really, really
Mhm.
good at it. So don't knock it. It's great. But what do you do when things don't need fixing? We're in this evolutionary time point where we're looking at markets and trending and look at us, how we're doing this right now. I
Mhm.
mean, I know ironically we're not that far apart. We're 20 or 30 miles apart, but you could be in Brazil right now for all I know. So this medium that we're doing, it's not a communication device, it's a transportation device. I'm
Mhm.
being transported to where you are. You're being transported to where I am.
Mhm.
The world has changed completely. So the fix it thing, not that important as much. So then you look at what she's doing, and I'll tell you, it boils down to one simple thing. It's not that simple, but it's really pretty simple. It's isolated. It's the difference between the fix it mentality and the empower the workforce mentality,
Mhm.
which means she has the ability to help her workforce critically think through problems at a completely different level than what the man does. If there's a problem and it goes to a traditional male hierarchy, then they go, okay, give it to me, I'll fix it. And the
Mhm.
guy goes out and he fixes it and comes back and gives the problem back to the person who brought them the problem, and then they go back to work. Okay. What a guy is doing when he does that. Let's say an employee comes up, a senior level employee who's in charge of something, and they say, hey, we got a problem here. There's a strike at the dock workers in Charleston, and we got a boat sitting out there with supplies, and we can't get the stuff off. And if we don't get the stuff off, the problem's going to escalate to our factories. The factories don't have supplies. We're going to shut down in 4 days. Usually the man looks at it and goes, give that to me. I'm going to get on the phone. I'm going to call somebody. Not the woman. What the woman does when the person brings them the problem, she has 3 steps she does that prevents her from having to fix it. And that's the critical difference. The first thing the woman does, this is so important. If anybody's writing anything down, write this down. Here are the 3 steps. Number one is she shows sympathy to the problem, not the person. So when it's going to say, oh my God, the dock workers are on strike and we're kind of stuck here, she doesn't go, oh, give me the phone. I'll fix it. She says, oh, that's a real problem. I saw that in the news this morning. And she isolates and separates the problem from the person because that person
Mhm.
didn't cause that problem, but
Right.
she's validating the problem. She's saying that is a problem and I see it, but it's not you. So
Mhm.
she shows sympathy to the problem, not the person. But then, part two, she does lean into the person, never shows sympathy, she shows empathy. She leans into the person and says, well, wait a minute, this is a big deal. We got to fix this. But are you okay? I hope you're not losing sleep over this. I know it's your responsibility, but you didn't cause those dock workers to go on strike. Just breathe. We'll figure this out. We'll walk through this together.
Mhm.
So the first step, sympathy to the problem, isolate the problem separate from the person, then lean into the person and make sure they're okay. She shows empathy to the person. Then part three, she does the most amazing thing. She says, hey, look, and everybody uses their own words. This is just a common thing. If you had a magic wand, if you could do
Mhm.
it, what would you do to fix this? How would you handle this? If what would you do? How would you do this? 94 to 95, somewhere in there, percent of the people who bring you the problem know how to fix the problem.
Yeah.
And what the guy traditionally does, well, give it to me, I'll fix it. He's literally neutering the person, saying, you're not
Mhm.
valuable enough. I'll have to do this. What she's doing is she's saying, hey, tell me how you would do this if you could do it. And since 95% of the time they know how to do it, she just looks at him and says, do it.
Mhm.
Go do it. You're free to go do it. So think of it this way, because here's the parallel back to the workforce and the consumer. She's saying, I'm going to show sympathy to the problem, empathy to the person, and I'm going to meet that person in the middle because they're my who. They're the person who knows how to do this. I
Mhm.
don't have to know how to do it. They know how to do it, right? And she's meeting them where they are, and then she's empowering them to do it. What she's really doing is saying, I see you, I hear you, and I understand who you are. That's why you're here. So if a person is the recipient of being seen, heard, and understood, then guess what? They feel valued. And a valued person who feels empowered will move mountains for you. And what she's able to do is empower and value her workforce so that they're solving the problems. She's not fixing it, they're doing it. And they're doing it better than what she could have done it if she tried to be the guy and roll up his sleeves and say, I can fix this for you. So by saying, I can see you, I hear you, I understand you, and then they say, oh my God, I feel so valued. Thank you. Yeah, you're empowered to go do it. Go do it. Boom. It just takes off. But think about this, everybody in the workforce feels that and sees it. And then the consumer feels it and sees it
Mhm.
too. But here's the best part. Instead of neutering your employees, taking away their empowerment, but say, I can fix it, and go and doing it yourself, by allowing the workforce to do it and they do it better, guess what she gets to do? She gets her time back, time, money, relationship,
Mhm.
and purpose. Now she's bought back her time to go do what she's supposed to do. And that's be innovative and creative and think of new markets and new ideas and new stuff. But also, what we see happening is next time there's a problem, she doesn't know it till it's over with because she has a workforce that feels seen, heard, and understood. They know they're valued and they know they're empowered to do it. So they do it. So in the future, if this happens again, it might be in the hallway where they're passing and they say, hey, I got to tell you something. Did you know this dock workers went on strike a couple of days ago, but we got it fixed. It's all good. And she just keeps going and go, hey, great. Awesome. Thanks. Well, thanks for letting me know. I got to go. I got to figure out how to open up in China or Japan or whatever. And so she is able now to be who she's supposed to be. She's free
Yeah.
to be her and do stuff, but she has a workforce that's out there. So think about this. If you have a workforce that feels seen, heard, and understood, they feel valued and they feel empowered and they love their work, why would they quit?
Right.
They don't.
Not.
That's why they're
Mm-mm.
staying twice as long. That's why their productivity is going up. And the
Mhm.
consumer sees it and feels it and they understand it. They feel valued. They feel empowered to make a choice and they do it. So that simple three-step process in the critical thinking of decision making around problems for the employees by giving it back to the employees so they feel seen, heard, understood, which means they're valued. Give them the empowerment. You cannot stop that machine. So she's just sitting there letting everybody be the best they can be. She's not trying to fix it. She's letting them fix it, which means she can go out and be a better leader. That's it.
You know,
But
and I
it's not a
just
girl
think,
thing. It's not a girl
yeah,
thing.
I no, it's not. And I just think of the ability of a company to have everybody rowing the same direction. That's one thing I think that, and I wondered on. I don't know if you found anything on this, but when I think of leaders, gender regardless, who come in and want to fix something, how much of it is the insecurity of if I don't look like I know all the answers, if I want to climb the company ladder and I want to make sure I'm the one who's been the hero.
Mhm.
The vulnerability of asking someone on the front line who talks to the customer every day, who knows the answer, like the ability to lower that guard of my ego and
Yeah.
really serve what we're all trying to do together. Did you uncover any of that
Oh, yeah.
within your research?
Oh yeah, there's a certain, I'll tell you what, we stuck to science. Okay. So a lot of people started talking to us about the nurturing gene and women are better and women create life, and I'm like, I know, I agree, but I can't quantify. I can't,
Right.
not that type of scientist, right? But we all know it's true. But I just can't go there. But at
Mhm.
the end of the day, what we realized was there is this certain amount of humility among women that's not a weakness, it's a strength.
Mhm.
And you and I talked when we did our pre-thing the other day. The greatest leaders in the world are humble without being weak.
Mhm.
And I think that's what women have just mastered. I have no evidence that it's genetic, that it's social. I don't know. I can because we didn't study that. So the best answer in science is I don't know. Just so you know, that's when a scientist says I don't know, keep talking to that person because that's a person who can approach the problems the best way. So I don't know, other than it's very obvious through observation that women are just better at that humble aspect of it. But it's not a weakness. And I think through social construct, through just society training men, that a lot of them do think that it's weak to be humble. And I've got to fix it to show I'm strong. I think we're figuring that out. Now, there's going to be a whiplash. We're probably going to have some guys go way too far, and then
Mhm.
come back and they'll figure it out. It's that uncomfortable Darwinistic evolutionary thing. But at the end of the day, once guys start dropping the guard, which to be honest with you, we're dying to, guys don't like that. They never have because you're setting yourself up for failure.
Mhm.
Women don't seem to have that problem. I can't tell you why, but it's true. But and I think I've talked about this before. You look at some of these. I will tell you one thing that's interesting. I had a woman come up to me and she said, I only hire single moms. I said, really? I said, that's interesting. I never thought of it. Don't have any problem with it. But why? And she goes, these women are heroes. They can do anything.
Yeah.
Why would I can get, if I hired 5 single moms to work for me, that's the equivalent of 30 anybody else. And I'm like, wow. So we took a little sidebar and started looking at it. And I get emotional when I talk about this because I've never had to experience that.
Mhm.
And I started looking at these women and talking to some of these single moms who are out there running their businesses and juggling and working. I mean, being a single mom's a full-time job, plus having a job as a leader and owning a company and doing everything else. And I was like, we got it all wrong. I said, all these people out there going, it's hard to be a single mom. It's not hard. It's impossible. It is
Mhm.
goddamn impossible
Mhm.
to be a single mom and go out there and do it. But these women do it every day. And I'll be honest with you, guys can't do that. We're not wired for that. I was in an event the other day and somebody had a baby. They went, you hold my baby? My first thought was, I'm holding a carbon-based unit that I don't understand right now. Like what the? Well, here, I like my kids, grandkids, but I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not wired that way. And they were cute. It was cute. It was a beautiful little baby. Like, whatever. But there's just something that's different. But man, I'm telling you, women have already got it in them. They can already do things that guys can't do. They can work harder, be involved in it. But there's that extra thing, and I appreciate you picking on that and noticing the ability of a female leader to be humble,
Mhm.
to approach it with understanding that it's not a weakness.
Mhm.
That's the difference. But guys are going to figure that out. It might take a decade to get it totally fleshed out, but it's coming. It's coming. And then I think what's going to happen that the female influence on the male leaders is going to be exponential within itself. So when we talk about 3x and 3x cubed, and then you get the guys in it, I don't, like I said, I don't even know how to calculate it. It's just going to be amazing. So, but women have that thing, and it's aligning with the economy, the workforce, and the consumer right now. So take advantage of it.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about this book, Don. Here come the girls. Like this could have easily been some new movement. It could have been some marketing campaign, but you went at it with the research, which I really believe is so critical for this to be taken seriously in the world of work because it all starts with numbers, right? If it doesn't,
Yeah.
if what gets measured gets managed or
Yeah.
whatever the thing on that is,
Yeah, data, not dogma. We say that all the time. What's the data, not the dogma?
yeah,
What's the data?
what's
So,
the data? So you've got the data in here.
yeah.
So my question is, you've got the data. What kind of reaction are you getting to this idea, to this book, when, soft skills have kind of been set over in the corner, culture's been set in the corner? How are people reacting to this?
Well, it's interesting. 100% of men love it. I've had zero pushback from men ever, with a couple of small market segments. Now, there are some industries that are going to fail
Mhm.
because they're going to be so far behind it. that they're going to go down to almost nothing before they come back up. And that's going to be sad to watch. But because it's industries that have been with us forever. They're just not going to change because of the patriarchal system, but they're outliers. The same way you've got outliers on both ends, they're just an outlier. But they're big names, big voices. They're gone. It's just there's nothing that could help them. But men overall embrace this and run to it because men, although they might not be, they might confuse fear and humility with weakness, and
Hmm.
women don't. They really do want to be better. Men wake up every day and say, how can I be better? What can
Hmm.
I do to do it? So 100% of the men that we talk to and lecture to love this, to the point we're talking about doing classes for men only, to say, hey, come on in. We're going to teach you how to think like a girl when it comes to something that's important as this. And you go through it. And like I said, what I just described is not a gender-based thing. It's just something that women are doing at the exact perfect time that the math is catching up. Society is where it needs to be. The consumer and the workforce want it. So women are just there doing it right. But the guys can learn from this and do it. Now flip that around, and I lecture sometimes 4 and 5 days a week on this stuff. If I've got 100 women in the room, 99 of the women will embrace it, tearfully cheer, stand up. I mean, I
Hmm.
get fist pumps, girl power, I get everything. But there's one of them that's going to throw a knife at me. And they come to me and say things like, "This is genderfying, and I don't like it." I'm like, I hate to tell you, it is 100% genderfying, but you need to read the tagline, which is why I'm so grateful you did. It's a celebration. And I always say to them, do you like girl power? Do you like, all this stuff? They're like, yeah, of course. I'm like, this is it. But then they say, well, what's a middle-aged blue-eyed white guy out there doing talking about this? And I'm like, because it's not a male or female thing. It's just the truth. So men look at the truth. Now, you got some Neanderthals out there, let them go. But, most of the men are going to be out there looking for the truth. Most women look for the truth. And that's what this book is scientific research that says the obvious and it puts science around it. So, it's not just some little quirky moment. And I understand this, but if you go on LinkedIn and you type in female leadership and leadership consultants and all, there's a lot of really pretty 20-year-olds out there who say that they're leadership experts and all. And I'm like, let me give you a little experience here. Leadership is more about time. It's more
Hmm.
about experience. In fact, we learned studying these women, which goes into the math part of it. It takes 23 years in the workforce to elevate on average to a point where you have credible ability to lead. 23 years. So when you're 20 years old, I'm cheering for you, but really, you're just keep going at it, but be patient. You
Hmm.
got to be in this game for a minute in order to look back and say, this is what happens and why. This is the ability of a leader to see things. This isn't something you learn in a textbook. This is grinding, and this is learning, and this is accepting, and this is getting. I always quote Mike Tyson. There was a great scene. I think it was Clubber Lang. I forgot who was fighting him a long time ago when Tyson was at his heyday. And they said, well, Clubber Lang's got this great strategy and how he's going to beat you. And Tyson responded, he said, yeah, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face, right?
Yes.
The second I connect with them with murderous intention, they're going to step back and they're going to forget their plans, right? Well, when I used to teach I used to teach for the Army for a long time, Special Forces, and one of the primary things you realize is when you start a process, you start anything in leadership, you start a mission, an orientation, or whatever, the second you start, you realize the enemy has a vote in your mission.
Hmm.
And leadership is the same way. It doesn't have to be combative, but you can sit there and say, look, I know going into this, when I get started, the enemy is going to have a vote. Who's the enemy?
Hmm.
A lot of times it's yourself. So these women
Absolutely.
who get out there and throw knives and want to say, I don't like it being gender. And I'm like, okay, I'm cheering for you ladies. I'm sorry, but I'm going to talk to this other 99 who are embracing this and running for it. So ironically, the reception is over the top. Great. Everybody wants it. But I do get a couple of angry women sometimes, but I think they're just angry at life, and they might be the recipients of some of those bad times. And
Hmm.
sorry, I'm just brokenhearted for him. I'm really sorry, but I wish I could just pull him along and say, "This is everything you've been waiting for. Let's get on this ship together and do it." So part of my heart wants to really help them, but that's hard, to do.
Well, I want to call something out though. So, as somebody
Uh,
who deals with messaging, okay, I'm looking at these words because I'm a word nerd,
oh
Don.
God, don't tell me we have a spelling problem
No, no,
here.
no. You're all
Okay,
good. You're
good.
all
All right,
good.
good.
So, here come the girls, a celebration of why
Yeah,
women will take over. Not that women are taking over, but you're looking at the reasons why. So, what are the behaviors that they're doing? And so that's where I hear this a little bit different. And I think a pushback to those
you're
people
100% right. Yeah,
is
yeah,
we're looking at the concepts of what are the behaviors that this particular group of people are using
yeah.
and celebrating that. So that may help you. And you can tell them that came from a woman, right? So
Yeah, oh, all day long, and that did come from a woman. My originally writing of that was a celebration of it wasn't why I forgot what the exact term was, but it wasn't that. It was a
Mhm.
celebration of women becoming the global leaders or whatever. And someone on the team goes, no, 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 this is research. You can
Yes.
go out there and get all the motivation and inspiration power out there. You got a lot of these inspirational, motivational people out there cheering, and I hope this is inspiring and motivational, but that's
Mhm.
not the point. The point is, okay, this is going to happen. Tell me why, because I really want to believe it. I
Mhm.
really want to understand it. But more importantly, and this is the best part of education, if you know why, then you can understand it.
Yes.
And if you understand it, you can do something with it. And it's funny, whenever I'm a professor, I usually get in a little bit of trouble. And the reason I get in trouble is because I give every student an A. Every student comes to my
Mhm.
class, whether I'm teaching at, Wake or anywhere, they're 100% of the kids get an A if you show up because I really don't care if you know it or not. I
Mhm.
think all of us know that women are better leaders. Okay, big deal. Okay. But do you understand why?
Mhm.
Now you've got something. So if you look at the old patriarchal system we have in education, you are judged by what you know,
Yeah.
right? In other words, you can dump this in the short-term memory and you can spit it back out. Great. I'm gonna give you an A, B, C, D, or an F, right? But I don't care about that because you can walk out and forget about it. What if you could work with people and explain the why, help them
Mhm.
understand it? Then it becomes a fuel and an energy inside of them that makes them just go out there and be so empowered they can do something with it. Because the point of education is to speed up time. If we didn't, we wouldn't teach kids math. We're like, oh, figure it out. Newton figured it out. Galileo figured it out. You can figure it out. No, they can't. Let's teach them. So we have a system that teaches people knowledge so that they can do something with it. But I'm like, but what if you can teach them to understand it? So thank you for picking up on that. Why is more important than what?
Mhm.
It always is. So if somebody understands why, they can get their head about it, but then they can also adapt it to their own personal situation because it doesn't always work the same. So we look at this in science and you've got a 3% deviation, which means if 97% of the time it works, that's outstanding. If 96% of the time works, which is 4% deviation, let's start talking, let's figure out what's getting out there. We're almost at 100% on this. So there is no deviation. Just do that and it'll work. But if you understand why, then you can do it for the right reasons. You're willing to accept the humility. You're willing to understand that fear is not a weakness. And I tell this all the time, men and women. Fear is what happens when you wet your pants. What you do when you're wearing wet pants, that's courage.
Oh,
And
that's so
world,
true.
yeah, what the world is looking for is courageous leaders. They're looking for somebody who's willing to say, I'm terrified, but you know what? I'm humble enough to say I've surrounded myself with the right people. And these people, I've empowered them because I see them, I hear them, I understand them, I value them, and I know they will move mountains for me. That's what women do. And so men can get on this board too and make it happen. So that's why is so important. It's because you can
Yeah.
understand it.
Yeah, very good. So, Don, as we get here near towards the end, what actionable steps should companies and individuals take today to prepare for this shift that we're going to see or
Yeah,
already underway?
yeah, luck does favor the prepared, right? I mean, we're
Mhm.
32 months away from the tipping point happening. Like I said, it's really already happening around us, but it's going to become undeniable in the next 32 months. So companies need to be prepared. And it usually starts with HR and culture. And I feel for HR directors. I really, really do. Because if you look at the commonality of HR directors, which 78 to 82% are female, which is interesting.
Mhm.
So we're saying, okay, you got a bunch of women who are great leaders. Why did they go into HR? What are they doing? And they went into HR because they're caregivers, but they're living in a business world and they want to be strategic. They want to bring culture and value to the organization. But what's happened over the past few years is this inflection point is happening between the patriarchal system and this evolution of the new things is that 3-year turnover, and so if you think about this, if the average American worker is changing jobs every 3 years, that means that 33% are changing every year.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're running a company, 33% of your workforce is turning over every year. So HR has had to leave the strategic opportunity to be influential and to lead and to look at the future as an impact item. And now they're just in talent acquisition. And what's happening is they're falling out of love with their career. And that's so sad. So what we're doing is we're going to these organizations and people and saying, hey, if you want to engage, let's talk about exploring ways where we can help you, because luck does favor the prepared. But best of all, if we can get through this and be fully prepared, you're going to double your retention. You're going to increase your production. Guess what? You're now going to get out of talent acquisition, or it's become a very, very small part of your life. And you too, as a woman in HR, are going to be back in a formidable role in the C-suite, making those strategic decisions. But you've got to say, all right, what am I willing to do differently? How am I willing to think differently about how I think about the way that I think about my thinking? All those things come in. So I think it starts with HR, with bigger companies. With smaller companies, it starts in the C-suite, men or women who just say, I'm willing to grow. I need to grow. I don't want to be left behind. What can I do? And they're calling us and we're working with everybody and we're talking to them, big and small, about ways we can do it. And it's just having a conversation. So if anybody wants to talk, we'll talk. Obviously, you do much better job than we do about branding and understanding culture and consulting and things like that. So there's certainly room for all that out there. But I think people just have to raise their hand and say, I just want to explore what it is. And I tell people, this is something that's really interesting. If you don't do anything, if you just ride the wave, and not an extinction event, but if you just ride the wave, you're going to grow 20 or 30% when this happens, just on the fallout of it.
Mm-hmm.
But people go, gosh, I'll take 30% growth anytime. Sure you would, except everybody else is growing around you at 400%. So
Right.
there's a point where you're going to get left behind and you'll never catch up. And here comes Darwin again, right? You're going to be the one eaten by your young. So yes, you might sit there and go, I don't want to grow 400%. You don't have to, but can you structure yourself in a way that you're so prepared when it happens that you are controlling time, money, relationship, and your purpose? And that involves a conversation. It involves humility. That involves sitting there saying, what can we do? Who can we work with? Like Lisa McGuire, we'll work with that. What can we do to engage and be fully understanding of this future? And that takes a conversation to do it. And it's the same way you would go to a doctor. He's not going to give you a prescription and say, oh, yeah, what's wrong with you? She's going to have a conversation with you, right? Mm-hmm. And let's figure this thing out together so we can make you the best you can be. And I think that's the humble position that organizations need to be in. They need to reach out and call you and say, hey, Lisa, what can I do? I want to be a part of this growth, and get you, Lisa, become their who. That's the big part of it. If you become the who, because you know how, then you're invaluable to them. And they look at you and say, oh my God, if I hadn't have ever met Lisa, I wouldn't be a part of this thing. So I guess the first thing they do is call you.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to toss it back to you because we've got who, we've got how, we've got why. Yeah. But the book sets up why this is happening, Don. It sets up why it's happening. And I know you do keynote speaking. I know you go work with companies. I know you work with HR professionals.
Yeah.
And so once they figure out, okay, this is the lay of the land, it's not going away, we have the data, we're trying to get this information out, then being proactive to get ahead, to see what it is coming rather than reactive and letting everyone else around them who is receptive to hearing this. Yeah. I think that is something that we're really looking at doing.
Oh, huge. I'll tell you the biggest thing out there, and I'm not picking on guys. Good Lord, I tell people this 1,000 times. I'm a guy. I really like being a man. It's important to me. Okay, that's me. I've got 3 grown boys. I've got daughter-in-laws now. Don't know anything about girls, but I'm learning. It's great. Mm-hmm. Okay, I love having girls in the family. It's awesome, right? But here's the one thing I can tell you about men versus women. In general, most male leaders prefer to be the smartest person in the room. They just do. Okay. I never see that with women. And this is a
Mm.
critical part of why women are going to escalate quickly, not just the math, not just a phenomenon of the ability to critically think and empower the teams, but this alone boils down to it. Women don't want to be the smartest people in the room. They want to be in a room where everybody is getting smarter together. That's
Yes.
collaboration.
Yes.
That's not fixing it. That's empowering and showing value, which trickles down to the workforce and the consumer. So if somebody's wanting to say, I'm tired and I'm frustrated with this, I need to call Lisa. You really need to look in the mirror and say, yeah, but I'm tired of being the smartest person in the room. I want to be in a room where everybody's getting smarter together. And then it's like an awakening, a rebirth,
Mhm.
where you come into a community where everybody's helping everybody out. And that's another thing. Women are competitive amongst themselves and competitive for their company because they want to bring value, but they're the first ones to cheer for their competition too and say, yeah, look at her. She did great over there. I'm cheering for her, what she did. Cheering. How can we collaborate together? There's no win or lose. In fact, we've got a rule here that we learned from all this. If we're ever in a deal structuring or whatever, and somebody comes up and says, this is a win-win situation, we literally close our books and walk out the door politely, but we do. There's no such thing as win-win. That's called a tie, and nobody likes it.
Mhm.
What women want and what we've learned to seek out isn't win-win, it's fair. What's
Mm.
fair for the customer, what's fair for the workforce, what's fair for the community, what's fair for everything, what's fair for us. If you see that and you surround yourself in a room with people who are getting smarter together, you can't stop it. And so I tell people this all the time. I cannot predict another pandemic. I cannot predict an alien invasion. I cannot predict zombies, whatever. So leave them out. As long as those don't happen, man, you better buckle up because in the next 3 years, we're going to see an economic growth that's beyond anything we've ever happened to. And I've got some other deeper theories that we're working through, but that's for another time. But I think it's going to be probably the most significant thing that's ever happened, even more than the industrial and the agricultural revolution combined. And it's going to be because women finally have their day. And that's not to take away from the past, it's just to celebrate. And that's what's happening.
So I think that is a great mindset shift for all of us to walk into this with is the opportunity. I just want to also say I work with a lot of men who have left corporate to start their own business because the culture was actually making them sick. They
Oh yeah.
didn't they didn't like how they felt like they had to behave, how they had to show up. And so this collaboration, I think, is going to be great for all of us. It is going to be fair and it is going to be great and it's going to help make our companies better. So,
Yeah.
Don, thank you so much for sharing your insights, your
Thanks for
visionary
having me.
outlook with us today. For our listeners eager to dive in, Here Come the Girls can be found, I'm guessing, wherever we find books.
Yeah. Amazon, all of it. They're out there.
All right. And finally, what's the best way for our audience to stay connected with you and continue learning from your research and thought leadership?
Sure. Well, I do a lot of these things. Obviously, anything through you. I mean, I'm your biggest fan. So I love the work that you do, and I'm so grateful that you have me on the show today, and we can talk about this. But it's really just reaching out to your who's, to you, and finding out. If they want to know more about me, you can go to donbarden.com. You can go on LinkedIn. Love LinkedIn. That's really the only social media that we're in because it really is about the business of business and about the application. And LinkedIn is the best forum for that. So if anybody wants to talk, they can just send me a note on LinkedIn. Go to donbarden.com and send us a note through there or just reach out and happy to help them any way we can. But there's a lot of stuff out there. Just Google it and you'll see.
And Don has been so gracious to also offer me the copy of The Perfect Plan. So if any of you would like to get a copy of that, just reach out. I'll have a link in the show notes and we'll make
For
sure
free.
we get that for you.
Yeah,
Right?
for free. They can have it for free.
There we
So
go.
yeah.
All right. That's even better. Great
Yeah.
four-letter word.
Yeah, the best and the worst word in business is free. Yeah, but I would love because, like you said, Here Come the Girls is a continuation of it. Now, 20, 25 years ago when we did Perfect Plan, no idea, no clue that was going to happen. But now it's just how we continue to evolve with the power of observation and this beautiful, beautiful thing that women are bringing to the world, the universe. So it's just time. So, like I said, and thank you for pointing it out. It's a celebration.
It is a celebration. So thanks so much, Don, for being with us.
Thank you. I appreciate everything you're doing, Lisa. Thank
All
you.
right. All right. So, one thing for certain is the world today, you can feel the energy shift as it's happening, and it's how it's happening in our companies. When we expect leaders to do more with less, when we're trying to navigate the impact of multiple generations, and traditional leadership models are running on fumes, here comes the girls, provides the data that things are already changing. So be sure to check out the show notes and learn more about Don. Get a copy of Here Come the Girls. And again, if you'd like a digital copy of The Perfect Plan, we'll have that link there for you. So one thing I do want to take note of for the listeners is Don recognized something interesting. And he leveraged his zone of genius talent to get curious enough to look and then dig deep into the research. And he's calling this phenomenon out and is offering a proactive solution for all of us to be prepared. So, what are you curious about that's asking for your attention? How do you take responsibility to move it beyond an idea? And if you're looking to write that next chapter, feel free to reach out to talk and connect with me about my one-on-one mentorship packages. When you find the courage to take those bold steps forward is when your impact can be felt in the world. So until next week, go chase your passion. It will reveal your purpose, and you'll find that alignment is a sign you're on the way to your legendary self. We'll see you here next week.